Hi there. Our group, Billy, Annika, Sophia, Colgan, and Maya, will be analyzing the immigration process to the United States and how it influences social, political, and economic factors for immigrants.
Hi, my name is Sophia, and I will be talking about family separation.
To begin, delving deeper into the topic of immigration, we can look at the impact of being separated from your family from a microsociologist perspective. In these two pictures, we could sympathize with the immigrant families, especially the children who are losing their parents. The image on the left shows a family separated with the young child distressed, leaving a lasting impact on whoever comes across the picture due to feelings of sorrow and consolation. On the right, the image depicts a protest in which children and family members are saying in Spanish that families deserve to be united. The separation of families and incarceration of immigrants became a contemporary and controversial issue during Trump's presidency. Stated by Conley in the textbook, the separation of children from their parents at the border received much press attention, as did the terrible conditions of some detention centers. However, other important aspects of ICE detention practices garnered less attention. Since Trump viewed the immigrants as criminals in the United States, the families had to endure prolonged family separation when the parents or children were incarcerated. The long time being apart disrupted the family dynamics of a typical nuclear family and caused the children to be raised by grandparents, aunts or uncles, family friends, or foster parents. In the journal, Family Reorganization, in a context of legal uncertainty, Guatemalan and Salvadorian immigrants in the United States, Menjivar says, "A young man in Phoenix who is half Salvadorian and half Guatemalan felt robbed of a sense of family because he had grown up in the care of his maternal grandmother in El Salvador, with comforts and everything I wanted materially, but without my parents. This young man, along with other children, wanted their parents to grow up with them, and might have developed mental health issues in the future due to the separation." Along the lines of this, some families might develop anomie, or in other words defined by Conley, a sense of normlessness resulting from drastic changes in living conditions or arrangements, which he called anomie, often leads to suicidal thoughts. The trauma, stress, and painful memories of being separated from your family can lead to future consequences and discomfort, making immigrant family separation an unfortunate topic. Therefore, due to these troubling experiences, immigrant families seek support through educational settings.
From knowing this information, I cannot imagine being away from my family for an extended period. As a daughter of an immigrant, I am fortunate enough to have not been robbed of a father. My life would be so much different without his guidance, care, and support, which everyone deserves in life. Immigrants have little support and little care from their families and society. Therefore, it is important to understand and educate others about the crucial impacts of family separation on their well-being.
Hello, my name is Maya Rodriguez, and today I'll be covering the topic of educational opportunities for immigrants. Ensuring that immigrant families remain united is just as important as providing immigrant students with access to education and opportunities for success. Access to education transforms lives by breaking cycles of poverty and inequality. Education is more than knowledge. It's a powerful social institution driving mobility and shaping society. As sociologist Dalton Coley explained, social institutions are a complex group of interdependent positions that together perform a social role and reproduce themselves over time. Schools are essential social institutions that equip individuals for success and help marginalized communities overcome systematic barriers, creating a more just and inclusive world. Schools also bring together students from diverse racial, ethnic, and immigrant backgrounds, fostering understanding and breaking stereotypes. As Tamer notes, the more work schools can do to improve race relations and attenuate stereotypes and stereotype threat based on immigrant status, ethnicity, and race, the more immigrant youth and their U.S.-born peers will thrive. By creating safe, welcoming environments, schools help students grow academically and socially, building stronger and inclusive communities. Educated people earn better incomes and support their families while contributing to economic health. As Baum and Flores explain, people who attend college pay higher taxes and are less likely to depend on public support than those who do not. Education also nurtures bilingualism, a skill in demand globally, enhancing job opportunities and earning potential. A powerful example of a restraint was the Chicano movement of 1968, when Mexican-American students in East Los Angeles walked out to demand better education, including bilingual programs and culturally relevant curriculum. Their courage highlighted systematic equalities and sparked reforms. I've seen firsthand how important education opportunities are for immigrant students. At my high school specifically, there is a class called English Language Arts, or ELA, and students were automatically enrolled in the class and helped them improve their writing, reading, and speaking skills. New students were also paired with student aides that helped them in any class that they needed, and the counselors would help students that didn't have a social security number fill out the FAFSA and the DREAM application.
Hi, my name is Annika, and today I will be talking about religion and politics as they relate to immigration. Immigrants who seek equal education opportunities also seek the freedom to practice their religious beliefs and political values. That is, without the external pressures of being told what or who to believe in. This conflict is ultimately rooted in hegemony, which according to our textbook is a condition by which a dominant group uses its power to elicit the voluntary consent of the masses, to which white individuals have held a position of power throughout history and continue to hold this position within modern-day society. This status difference can enable white individuals to discriminate against immigrants and minimize the voices of pre-marginalized groups, especially amongst large institutions such as politics and religion. Many immigrants face challenges when deciphering what to believe in. This can take the form of following the beliefs of their religious leaders or standing for more progressive immigration rights and opportunities. To the right, we can see two seemingly patriotic individuals wearing Trump Vance merchandise and holding a sign that reads, "Deport illegals now." They appear to be very prideful in their harmful statements, which were prevalent parts of President-elect Donald Trump's campaigns. It was found that, according to Wong, study after study shows a strong association between evangelical identity and conservative political attitudes, to which many Hispanics and Latinos affiliate with religions that are traditionally conservative. Alternatively, the image on the left reflects a diverse group of individuals protesting for their rights. Their facial expressions vary, although passionate nonetheless, and one of the signs reads, "We are here to stay, #DreamActNow." The DREAM Act, in brief, expanded temporary residency and occupation opportunities for immigrants. This divide, according to our textbook, is an example of a culture war and is extremely polarizing, given that culture wars can cause immigrants to feel as though they are fighting against each other for the same cause. My parents are both immigrants from the Philippines, as well as many of my other family members. However, within our family alone, I have noticed a great divide between those who are more left-leaning and more right-leaning. So this polarization, even within my small family circle, has caused a lot of tension and conflict. Therefore, if we take this and scale it to that of our country, our society, we can imagine how drastic this divide has grown to be.
Hi, my name is Colgan, and I'll be talking about immigrants dealing with incarceration and the criminal justice system. In order to truly understand the depth and dimension of what immigrants face in terms of courts and the criminal justice system, we must understand how social institutions like these are heavily influenced by discrimination. This prejudice can affect the decision-making within the criminal justice system that can determine an immigrant's life and livelihood. This puts legal and non-legal immigrants at higher risk because of the possibility of being deported or sent to a detention center. Along with the steeper risk, many laws are put in place by the government that target immigrants and people of color specifically. These laws are considered formal social sanctions that are mechanisms of social control, such as rules or laws to prohibit deviant or criminal behavior. These are used to control these minority groups. All immigrant groups, aside from Mexican and Central Americans, have lower incarceration rates in relation to US-born individuals. The reasoning for Mexican and Central Americans being an outlier can be attributed to the statistics including detentions for immigration-related offenses. There are many reasons for the increased targeting and incarceration of immigrants with the use of organizations such as ICE, besides the basic level racism and prejudice they face. The increase of private prisons has played a huge part in the growth because of the economic benefits it brings to certain few that own these prisons. In 2010, over 392,000 immigrants were detained in order to fill the detention centers, which was way more than any year in the Bush administration prior. To add on to that, the Trump administration has voiced their plan to increase further border security and their efforts to incarcerate more immigrants. These unethical practices of private prisons, working with government organizations along with hateful faith, has created an increasingly difficult and dangerous environment within the United States for immigrants that are coming and even already within our borders. There are many protests happening across the country in efforts to support immigrants and their opposition to the overreach of the government. In states like California, where there is a large immigrant population, there is a large amount of people who are actively fighting to protect these unheard voices of immigrants.
My friend doesn't have the same opportunities as we do, even though he's the same age as us, and he's extremely capable due to him not being documented. He currently is able to travel within the US, but at the beginning of the new year, he will not have that right anymore, which affects the lifestyle that he has already established here.
Hi, my name is Billy, and I will be talking about redlining and how that affects immigrants.
Past the unfair treatment immigrants face in the criminal justice system, it's important to look at the discriminatory practices and meanings rooted in racial background prejudice that they continue to encounter today. These images collectively show the emotional and physical depth to which immigrants of color go through when faced with racial discrimination and ways to combat that ideology. Redlining prevented immigrants of color access to mortgage loans, which were needed for home ownership, meaning immigrants were generally located in poor neighborhoods that lacked adequate resources. The main problem, highlighted in a UC Berkeley article written by Nadia Lathan, is that those currently living in historically redlined neighborhoods are highly vulnerable to air, water, and noise pollutants and other health problems. Immigrants of color who can only afford to live in areas affected by historical redlining are presently facing the legacy of racial discrimination effects from more than 50 years ago. Many white families were able to own a home and pass it down through generations. However, that is far from the case for non-white families in areas that prohibited them from ever owning. When discussing how race and socioeconomic status both affect non-white families in poor neighborhoods, as mentioned in our textbook, there is a clear case of intersectionality playing out in family economics. Critical race theorist Kimberly Crenshaw coined the term intersectionality as a way to highlight the overlapping social identities that make up and set an individual's experience from one another. A lower class female immigrant of color is going to experience very different disadvantages and inequality than a lower class white female US citizen. However, there has been a push for immigrants to obtain an LPR status, short for Legal Permanent Resident, making it possible for them to live permanently and take employment in the United States, pointed out by Matthew Painter in his journal entitled Wealth Inequality Among New Immigrants. Having this particular level of status offers some protection for immigrants by giving them legal stability and opportunities that counter the harsh racial discrimination shown in practices such as redlining. LPR status is an effective way to slowly integrate into U.S. society for many immigrants who feel lost and discriminated against upon entering a new country. While having LPR status doesn't solve the entire issue of racism within redlining, it does provide more access to housing and legal protections, building a foundation for immigrants to gradually gain more access to equal resources. I myself am an immigrant from China, being adopted into the United States at the age of 6. I was privileged enough in having my adoptive parents prioritize getting me a U.S. citizenship. Growing up in an affluent part of Northern California, I often reminded myself how fortunate I was to not have to worry about neighborhood inequity or what resources were or were not applicable to my background. I do recognize the hardships that others go through when immigrating to the United States, and I think it's a valuable conversation we should all be having, especially in schools from such a young age.